How you doing, class? We're going to do our second example of using the law of cosines. This example pertains to a triangle where you've been given side, side, side. This is section 10.6 of your online book, Law of Cosines. In the previous video, we used another triangle, but we were solving for a triangle that had given you side, angle, side. Now we're given side, side, side. And in order to solve this triangle, meaning you have to find the degrees. Notice no degrees are given. So it's a little bit tricky. You cannot use the law of sines, but you can use the law of cosines. So we're going to be using these guys up here. You can solve for any angle first. It doesn't matter which one you solve for, A, B, or C. So we can just take our pick. In my example, I'm going to solve for, let's say, what do I have here? I'm going to solve for angle A first. Okay, so I'm going to use this one first to solve for angle A. And because we do know what little a is, let's populate, or let's identify who we have. We have little a is 10.5, little b is 6.3, and little c is 12. And we don't know any of the angles, so we'll skip that. So we'll use this to begin our solution. So a squared, well, that's 10.5. We're going to square that, equals b squared. Well, we know that that's 6.3 squared. Okay, let's use parentheses there. Do I know what c squared is? That's 12 squared. Okay. I don't know. Well, let's continue to just, I'm just substituting here. This is 6.3, and then we have for c we have 12. Okay. And then we have cosine A at the end. All right, so we're gonna have to simplify this, get it all cleaned up a little bit here. So do this along with your calculators and start to clean up what this looks like, okay? So 10.5 is approximately 110.25, and this is equal to 6.3 squared is 39.69, plus 12 squared, that's 144, minus, now 12 times 6.3 times a -2, and so all of this here gives me a 151.2 cosine A. Again, we're just trying to clean up things, get it all into one side. And as you're looking at this, you're probably thinking, hey, we're going to be able to solve for cosine A, meaning angle A, while we clean this up. Let's continue to clean this up further. I'm going to take these guys here, take the sum of this, and we get 183.69 minus 151.2 cosine A. And if you subtract, this is 183. I'm going to subtract 183 on this side and subtract 183.69 on that side. Kind of clean the stuff up, as we said earlier. So if I do this, I'm going to end up with the following here. 100 minus 183 is going to give me negative 73.44 equals, well, this is gone, but I still have my negative 151.2 cosine A. And what I did here is I took this part of my equation, subtract 183.69 from this side, subtract 183.69 on this side, 110.25 minus this gives you 73.44, and you're realizing, well, why can't I add or subtract the 151? Remember, that's a product. It's attached to your cosine A, so you can't add or subtract it out. You're gonna have to what? Right, you're gonna have to divide it out from that side. So we're going to divide this by negative 151.2 on this side and divide by negative 151.2 on this side. It eliminates the the negative 151.2 from the right side of the equation, leaving cosine A alone. So if you take 73.44, divide that by negative 151.2, you get a 4857 is equal to cosine A. What do you think you're going to use next? Inverse functions. What is the inverse of cosine when you have a 0.4857? And when you use the inverse cosine, it's going to give you approximately, and now we're going to have to round to the nearest degree here. You're going to get 61 degrees. Okay, and which is equal to the measure of angle A. So we have a measure of angle A. We have 61 degrees, okay, using the law of cosines. Well, it seems to me if I find one more angle, I would have two angles, and I can take 180 degrees and subtract the two other angles. So we can pick, we have a solution for A. I can solve for B or I can solve for C. It does not matter. I will solve for C. Hopefully you guys can see this on this side. So I will solve for C. I'm now going to be using this calculation here. So why don't we take care of that now? C squared. Well, C squared is 12 squared, right? So I can start to kind of clean that up here a little bit here. So I will use 144 is equal to A squared. Well, hey, I did A squared earlier right here. Wasn't this A squared? I already have my answer for A squared, so I can just use that again. This is 110.25 plus, do I know what B squared is? I think I have that as well. I must have B squared. I did it earlier. Where is my B squared? Let's see. B squared would be, this is my B squared, 6.3. I know what that is. That's 39.69. 39.69. Well, this is gonna get a little bit messy here. Hopefully you can see as I'm squeezing this in here. I gotta multiply. We're using this one now. This is our second attempt. We have our C squared equals A squared plus B squared minus 2 times A, which is, what's A? 10.5 times B. What's B? 6.3. Now I'm gonna have to make an accommodation here so you guys can see this. Let me move this out of the way. Hopefully you can pause so you can copy this down if you haven't. But let me move this out of the way so you guys can see what I'm trying to do next here. So I'm using this formula here. I just completed 2 times A times B, and now I have to conclude with cosine C. Cosine C. All right, let's start to clean this up like we did in the earlier example, trying to isolate for cosine C. So let's take care of that. We have 144 equals, I will sum this together to try to achieve maybe just one term here. And if I do that here, I get the following. I get 149.94 minus, now all of this right here is equal to 132.3 cosine C. Again, just cleaning this up here. This is attached to this, it's a product, so I can't subtract this out, but I can subtract this up. So I will subtract 149.94 from this side and minus 149.94 from this side. I still have my 132.3 cosine C. Well, what does this look like if I subtract 149.94 from this side? I get the following. Negative 5.94 is equal to negative 132.3 cosine C. Now, hopefully you're now recalling from the previous example that this is just an isolation technique here. We're going to isolate cosine C. Negative 132.3 on this side and negative 132.3 on this side. What do you get when you divide a negative by a negative? That's right, a positive. So we're going to get a positive 0.448 is equal to cosine C. What should we use? Well, why don't we just use the inverse functions here? That's been our tool that's been in our pocket here. If I use the inverse cosine of 0.0448, I get 87.4 degrees is equal to cosine C. You will have to check this example. They don't round on this one because it wasn't, on the previous example, it was, I think, 60.9 degrees. 60.9 degrees, we round up to 61, but this one's kind of in the middle. So we'll keep it at 87.4. So the measure of angle B will be, measure of angle C will be 87.4. Well, what's the last step in trying to solve this one? Well, 180 degrees is the sum of all three angles. And if you were to take 180 degrees, subtract angle A and angle C, you're left with the answer to angle B, which is going to be 31.6 degrees. Hey, Mr. Diaz, in this example, you never used the law of sines, right? We didn't. We never had to use the law of sines in this case. It was all law of cosines and law of cosines. And this is particularly interesting for when you're given side, side, side. In a previous example, you use law of cosines, and then you went back and used an old tool, the law of sines. Those are two examples for you that you have to use. I would like for you guys to try out the check it out problems that you have following those two examples. Feel free to rewind the videos if you need to see it again, or if you missed a step. But good luck with this, gentlemen. Make sure to submit your classwork and homework before the deadline. We'll see you soon.